Young Israel of Brookline, YIBrookline.org.
Okay, so let's begin. We're beginning the book of Nehemia. I have on the sheet Perek Aleph, which is only 11 psukim, and half of Perek Bet. So again, we'll see. I know it's late, so I'm not going to keep everyone here late. So we'll see if, I assume we'll at least get Perek Aleph, and we'll see if we do that part of Perek Bet as well. Okay, so we are beginning the book of Nehemia. Just a brief introduction or word regarding the book itself. You know, many people are probably familiar that in the Jewish tradition, Masorah, Ezra and Nehemiah are one book. We say they're Chaf Daled, Kisvei Kosher, 24 books of Tanach. That's counting Ezra and Nehemiah as one book. And at some point, I'm going to explain these things. And really, it originally came from the Christian tradition to count it as two books, to divide it into two books. And now, for convenience, we refer to it in the sense, if you want to reference a pasuk in the second parak of Nehemia, so you say, oh, the pasuk is in Nehemia, parak bet, pasuk gimel. What else are you going to say? I mean, if you say it's, Ezra, parak yud dalid, right? Which no one will know what you're talking about. So what, honestly, probably is not right, but what are we going to do? I mean,
so how do you refer to it before the Christians started divided up into prakim like that to start with?
Yeah, in general, before they were prakim, in general, the Rishonim basically have all the same parshas as we do. So like they'll say the beginning of parshas whatever, and then parshas whatever. But yeah, they don't have Rashi. Rashi still refers to Ezra and Nehemiah as one book, and no one here is in our Sunday morning basis share, but it happened to be we came across relatively recently. Rashi was quoting pasuk in Nehemiah, and he says, "Oh, like it says in Ezra," because he didn't, it was one book called Ezra, it wasn't. Yeah, and then in the parentheses, which were added by more recent people, says Nehemia, right? Chet Dalet or whatever. Okay, now let's just read the first four words of Perek Aleph. Divrei Nehemia ben Chachalia, as the way it's localized here in this pasuk. And these are the words of Nehemia ben Chachalia. I mean, now we're going to have 12 or whatever it is prakim of the life and times of Nehemia, and also he's writing in the first person. So I mean, you understand why someone sort of saw this as the beginning of a new book, but again, according to our Masorah, it's really one book. Just two interesting sources again before we even begin. I guess it's a bit of an introduction. So if you turn to the back, so in the bottom I just have two sources for you. So there's one Gemara which actually asks, "V'Nehemia ben Chachalia my taima lo ikri sifra al shmei." Why didn't he get his own book? Why is he, just incorporated into Ezra, and he doesn't get like a title, a headline anywhere? His name is not, on the marquee anywhere. So we'll see before you see the Gemara's answer. Nehemia, on the one hand, is viewed as a great leader, a tzaddik, a good person in our tradition, certainly. Many Siemens Chazal reference that he was part of the Knesset HaGadolah. At the same time, we'll see he's not presented as the scribe, scholar, sofer as Ezra is. Nehemia is more of the, national leader, like a king or whatever. More of like a political leader. Now, again, he clearly wants everyone to keep the mitzvahs, and he's going to be, also giving them rebuke and telling them we have to follow the law. But right, he's more of a political leader. Another question or comment? Okay, so let's see what the Gemara says. It's interesting. The Gemara says, though, Amar Virim bar Abba, mipnei shehichzik tova la'atzmo. It's a criticism of Nehemia. We'll see the pasuk, but it means that Nehemia was not sufficiently humble. He, gave himself too much credit. Shehichzik tova la'atzmo. Shneimar, the pasuk says, we'll see this in context. Zachar li Elokai l'tova. God, remember me for my good. I mean, all the good that I did. And we'll see in the context the Gemara understands that to be as a bit of a boast. Okay, and the let's continue. David Nami Meimar Amar, but the Gemara says David made also similar statements. Remember me, God, in the goodwill of your people. Remember me for your salvation. So the Gemara says, no, David Rachmi David was saying as a prayer, oh, please remember me, not as like, a request for reward or, fame. And obviously the Mida Keneged Mida is he was a little bit too self-promotional. And so Chazal says as a punishment, so, he kind of lost his name on the title of a book. Right? Okay, or the Gemara continues, Rav Yosef Amar, similar, because he wrote about, discussed in a way that disparaged the previous generations. Shneimar, the pasuk says, well, again, we'll see all these psukim. V'hapachot harishonim, and the first governors, the previous governors, meaning Jewish governors, asher lefanai, that came before me, Nehemiah says, hichbidu al ha'am, they, put too much of a burden on the people. V'yitchu mehem belechem v'yayin, achar kesef shkalim arba'im, whatever we'll see the context, and they took money from them, whatever it was. And so he too publicly, sort of criticized, the previous governors, and again, in a similar way, promoting himself. And the Gemara says, Va'af al Daniel shagadol mimenu siper, and in that like sweeping statement, he even caught up Daniel, because according to one medrash, Daniel is synonymous with whatever Sheish Basar, one of these people that came earlier, and that was really wrong. Meaning, even if there were some previous governors, that abused their powers, but he just sort of said, all the previous governors, and that really was. So Chazal view it as a punishment.
So it was divided into two books in the time of the Gemara?
No. Meaning, so the Gemara is saying, no, therefore it was one book, and really we could have imagined, right, we could have imagined it to be two books, but we said, no, we don't want to give Nehemiah a whole book. We don't want to have a whole book named after Nehemiah. Let him be... Exactly. It's really not only is it just generally against the tradition of Haggai books, it's really against this whole sort of idea of this Gemara. That's correct.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
If you have a book of the Tanach named after you,
yeah,
are you by definition a Navi or a lady Navi, like Esther presumably?
The Gemara says Esther was a Navi, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it gets a little bit how you understand ksuvim, meaning is ksuvim a lower level?
No, but you have to have a name, if it's named after you, like Ruth or Dan. Well, Daniel.
Not necessarily.
You don't have to be a Navi. Was Ezra a Navi?
We don't find that he was a Navi. No. I mean, there are certain midrash say Ezra was the same as Malachi, which would mean he was a Navi, but if he just Ezra for himself. Okay, so let's begin. Nehemiah Perek Aleph. Divrei Nehemiah ben Chachalia. These are the words of Nehemiah. Vahi b'chodesh Kislev shnas esrim. It was the month of Kislev in the 20th year, which we'll see the 20th year of
The return to Jerusalem.
Artaxerxes. The 20th year of the reign of Artaxerxes. And in Ezra, we saw the Psukim said that Ezra went to Israel in the 7th year, I believe, of Artaxerxes. So this is 13 years later. Vani hayisi b'Shushan habira, and I was living in the capital of Shushan, the capital city Shushan. Right, so that's where, we know another story took place. So we know lots of Jews lived in Shushan, and we'll see another example of a Jewish person in the court. I read somewhere that there were still Jews living in Shushan, I don't know, 1100, 1200, 1300. So there were Jews living there for thousands of years. So anyway,
where is Shushan?
So I looked it up. It's actually in Iran nowadays. It's now.
Is there like a city there that you could?
Yeah. I think so. I think in they call Susa, S-U. If you look it up, Google S-U-S-A.
And that's Shushan.
I think so. Yeah, that's what I think so.
Although as a Jew, you wouldn't want to go there.
Right. Not. Yeah.
There's still Jews in Iran.
Not so many. I mean,
oddly enough, there's a Shushan in northern India, but it's not. This is Shushan.
Okay.
I think I saw a picture actually around Purim. There's a I think Mordecai's kever is in Iran. There was they make a pilgrimage. Did you know about that?
Yeah, the current government makes a big deal that they're preserving it.
Mm-hmm.
Mordecai, yeah. And maybe Esther is buried there too, I think. Yeah.
Interesting.
Organize a shul trip.
Yeah. A picnic. A picnic.
Like an educational tour. Cultural exchange.
Yeah.
Preserving. Look, we're good to the Jews.
Yeah.
Fact finding nation.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, they're, they should be.
Okay. Pasuk then. Ve'avo Chanani echad me'achai. And so Chanani, echad me'achai, one of my brothers. So it's very vague. Does that mean literally, I don't know, as one of his brothers, or doesn't mean literally a brother, but maybe like a relative? Or it means, no, it just means another Jewish person. So this Hanani comes, Hu v'anashim miYehuda. He with a little bit of a group, an entourage, are coming from Yehuda. Ve'esh'aleim al ha-Yehudim ha-pleita. And I was asking them about the remaining Jews, the remainder, asher nisharu min hashevi, that again had survived the captivity and had returned to Jerusalem. Va'al Yerushalayim, and I was inquiring about Yerushalayim, the city in general. Vayomru li, and they said to me, Hanisharim asher nisharu min hashvi sham b'medina. A lot of shins in that pasuk. The ones who remained, who survived the captivity, who are there in the state, in the province. Bira'a gedola ubecherpa. They're in a very bad situation. The Chomas Yerushalayim miforetzet, and the wall, is broken, has been pierced. There isn't a wall around Yerushalayim to protect them. Usha'areha nitzetu ba'esh, and its gates have been burned by fire. And back then, again, the wall of the city and the gates were just very important, practically and symbolically. So when I heard all these things, Yashavti va'avka, I sat and I cried, va'esabla yamim, and I mourned many days. Ve'ahitzam umit palel, and I fasted and I prayed, lifnei elokei hashamayim, before the God of heaven. So he seems surprised by the report, or he wasn't aware of it to the degree that they described to him. And again, so this is 13 years after Ezra has gone up, and again, it seems like things just still are not good. We'll see in more detail what exactly is going on, but they just still can't get their act together.
And Ezra went long after the first couple weeks.
That's what we've been assuming, yeah. That's what we've been assuming. Again, there are different opinions in the chronology, but that's what many assume, that Ezra was like 50 or so years after they built the base of Mikdash. And now this is another 13 years. Okay. Va'omar, and I said, Ana Hashem Elokei Hashamayim, Hakel Hagadol V'Hanora. He's missing Gibor. Shomer Habris V'Chesed La'Ohavav L'Shomer Mitzvosav. These are all like phrases from the Torah in different places that he's just sort of putting together. So again, Hashem, the mighty, the awesome, who remembers his covenant and kindness to those who love him and those who observe his mitzvot. Tihina aznecha kashavet, let your ear hear. Veinecha ptuchot, and let your eyes be open. Lishmoa el tfilat avdecha, to hear the prayers of your servants. Asher nochim yisbelu l'fnecha hayom, that I'm praying for you today. Yom v'layla, day and night. Al b'nei Yisrael v'decha, for your children of Israel, the children of Israel, your servants. Umisvada al chatos b'nei Yisrael asher chatanu lach, and I confess for all of the sins that we of the Jewish people have sinned against you. Ani ubeit avi, I and my father's house, chatanu. Again, we did in Slichos, what does it say? Anu. So again, all these things sort of echo each other. And chavol chavalnu lach, we have harmed you. V'lo shamarnu et mitzvot, and we haven't guarded the mitzvot. Et hachukim et mishpatim asher tzivita, all the mitzvot that you commanded. Et Moshe Abdecha, by Moshe your servant. However, he says, Zacharna tadavar asher tzivita et Moshe Abdecha. but also remember that which you commanded to Moshe, your servant, more that you said in the Torah. It already predicts, Atem timalu, you will rebel against me. Right? You will. That's better translation than rebel. How do they translate rebel?
Deal treacherously.
Okay, deal treacherously. That's not the word I was looking for, but it's okay. Ani afitz etchem ba'amim, and I will scatter you amongst the nations. I mean, if you sin, that's what it says in the Tochacha and Nitzavim and all that. Vishavtem elai, that's the thing in echo of a pasuk in Nitzavim. But you will return to me. Ushmartem mitzvotav v'asitim alatam, and you will observe the mitzvot and perform them. Imiyani dachacha b'iksei hashemayim misham akab seim. Right, that's in Nitzavim, right? And even if you will be, scattered, pushed away as far as the edges of the heaven, I will gather you from there. V'haviotim el hamakom asher bacharti l'shakein et shmi shama, and I will bring you all to the place that I chose to make my name dwell there. V'heim avadecha v'amecha, and Nehemiah says, "In God, these are your servants and your people. Asher padita b'kochacha hagadol u'biadcha hachazaka." You already redeemed them once, meaning from Mitzrayim, and using those phrases with a great strength and mighty arm. So Ana Hashem, so therefore please Hashem, Tihina aznacha kashevet el tfilat abdecha, el tfilat avadecha hachafetzim liyira et shemacha. So open up your ear, listen to the prayers of your servant and all of your servants who wish to serve you, to be in awe of you. The hatzlichana la'avdecha hayom, and make your servants successful today. Utenehu l'rachamim lifnei ha'ish hazeh, and please place mercy before ha'ish hazeh, this man or this person. Who is he referring to? Well, actually, it's right. He could mean himself. Himself, we'll say, it means the king. Meaning he's about to, or the whatever, the Persian, right? Meaning either let him be merciful, or be merciful for me as I approach him. So yeah. V'ani hayiti mashkel hamelech, for I was the cupbearer to the king. Okay, and it seems clear that that doesn't just mean he was like serve the drinks, but he was like means this close confidant, of the again, king is not the right word, the whatever sultan or something like that. Yeah. Now it's interesting. Let's flip back to page 2. So in the bottom, so this is a Rashi. We'll see Rashi's quoting a passage in the Talmud Yerushalmi. The Rashi again is in the Gemara Maseches Kedushin. Hatir Shasa. So it's a word we've encountered in other contexts. The Pashut Pshat is it's some sort of Persian word that means some kind of ruler, governor, noble person, something like that.
Pasha. Is that what do you call him?
Well, Hatir Shata is
sorry.
Yeah. But anyway, so Rashi says Nehemia ben Chilkiah Chachalia Karoi came to say for Ezra. This is what the title is used for Nehemia. Here you go in the book of Ezra. When he says Ezra, he means Nehemia. Nehemia doesn't appear in what we call the book of Ezra. Ubigamaras Yerushalmi, in the Talmud Yerushalmi Nimsa, the following can be found. Why was he called Hatir Shata? Okay, again, the simple understanding means that that's like a Persian word. But the Talmud Yerushalmi says, Sha'al Shem Shahaya Mashke Lamelech, he was again the cupbearer to the king. V'hayat Sarach Lishtot Kodem Shelo Yechashduhu. And so part of his job also was he had to taste every wine. Exactly, yes.
Like Tirosh.
Interesting, we'll see. Let's see.
That's a brand, I think.
Well, so Shema Hitil Samamavis, maybe there's a poison b'mashka. Hamelech. Okay, maybe there's a poison. And in fact, I'm not sure if this is clear in Tanach or just in the history books, the father of Artax Shasta was assassinated. I'm not sure if it's through a poison, but he was in fact killed. And they point out even like in Megillas Esther, like Big Tan and Teresh, there's there plots to
unseat the.
So let's see if you don't continue. So what's the question? So Nehemia is the cupbearer, and he's drinking every cup of wine.
Presumably not all of them are kosher.
Right. So was it kosher wine? So you could have said again, if it's wine that was actually used in religious service, so that would be forbidden on a Torah level. Presuming that it wasn't wine that was actually used in religious service. So still, though, if it's not made under Jewish auspices or other contexts, midrabanan nowadays, right? Midrabanan, wine's not kosher, so I need a hechsher on the wine. So you could have said they didn't have that rabbinic law yet, meaning that would be reasonable. But the Talmud Yishami apparently says like this. Talmud Yishami says no, it was already forbidden to have wine, not produced in the Jewish auspices. And again, back then, really the concern really was much greater that wine was being used, for in pagan services. Yeah. So anyway, so Rashi quotes, according to Yishami, he says, but he tirulo yain shel ovdei kochavim lishtot, meaning because he had this really prominent position, they made an exception for him. They let him do it. Lakach nikra hatir shata, and that's why he's called hatir shata. So I thought it was like hitir heter,
Yeah.
And then I thought and shata lishtot, but maybe it actually is even I don't know, a combination of heter and tirosh also. I'm not sure because tirosh also doesn't mean wine. So I don't know. So, but I read as heter like lishtot, heter shota, something like that. But anyway,
Maybe
so
just a Persian word and
yeah. So again, on one level, it is just a Persian word, but the Chazal, it probably did go through some Hebraicizing as it like got into Tanach. So anyways, that's another.
So that had to be based off the fact that it was like a serious nefesh thing, or the fact that it was, a very prominent government official, and we didn't want to have, like bad.
I assume something like that, or we think it's good for some of that time thought. Yeah. I think that's how I understand it, but I'm not sure. I don't think it's not clear in Rashi. I don't know. I didn't look up the Talmud Yisham.
Today, for example, if you were living in the rounds of I think today, but some country, the last Jew in Saudi Arabia or Kansas. Right. And you somehow managed to become the cupbearer to the king. Yeah. Would you be presumably allowed in the same sort of position to be a little more on this kind of stuff?
Probably. I mean, again, all these cases are like so.
The taster, they don't theoretically they don't drink alcohol, but the food, the food might be different too.
Yeah. And if there's a real pikuach nefesh, I'll tell you what. Someone was telling me. Not now, but this was a little bit ago. I'm not sure what I mean, like in our lifetimes, but I'm not sure how many years ago. It was one of these times that someone did something stupid, and they were taking something on planes they shouldn't be taking on, and they had to stop over in Russia, and then the next thing they knew, they were in jail in Russia. And like a young person, and so different people in the community were, they're trying to get senators and Congress people to exert influence to try to help them. And they needed someone, they had to write certain letters by certain times. And it was the deadlines were very important. And they wanted a certain specific person to write the letters. And it was like the exact diplomatic language, right? Like buzzwords or just it's not exactly the same thing.
Not to drive a Mack truck through the jail, right?
Yeah. But the reason I bring it up, and the person said, I don't know if I can get this done in time. And they said, well, we asked whoever they asked, and they said it's considered pikuach nefesh, and you should just work on it on Shabbos.
Interesting.
So if there is real pikuach nefesh,
redeeming captive.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Which you're allowed to do a lot of things. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we did it. We already did all Perek Aleph. So we could start Perek Bet. Okay. Vayhi b'chodesh Nisan. So the first Perek began in Kislev. It is now Nisan. Shnas Esrim la'artach Shasta Hamel. The 20th year of Artach Shasta's reign. Same year. Sorry.
They're kind of from Tishrei?
Very good point. Okay. I was going to ask if I didn't. So the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah says that Jewish kings, the new year, the years of the reign are kind of from Rosh Chodesh Nisan, but non-Jewish kings, the reign is from Tishrei. They can write whatever they want in their books, but in our books, right? So you see, very good. This is an example that since he's talking about the reign of our Shasta, so it goes by Tishrei, exactly. So it's still, even though they've crossed Nisan, it's still the same year of the reign. Excellent. So, but let's see here, how many years of Kislev? Teve, Shad, Adar. So like, but 4 months have passed. So he hasn't actually, so for 4 months he didn't do anything. He was like really upset. But he hasn't done anything for 4 months. Yayin lifanav. And there was wine before him, meaning there's some sort of, party banquet, right? The same, as described in more detail in Esther. Va'esa et hayayin. So I lifted up the wine. Va'edna lamelech, and I'm giving it to the king. V'lo hayiti ra lefanav. And normally I would never be in a bad mood or, displaying any kind of sort of negativity in front of him. Vayomer li hamelech, but the melech saw me, and he says to me, Madua panecha ra'im. Literally, why is your face so? I'm interested in how they translate it. Yeah, why is thy countenance sad? Now, vata incha chola, you're not sick. Ein zeh ki im roa leif. It must be that you have. How do they translate this? Sorrow of the heart. Now, the reason why I was looking at the translation is in the classical Mefarshim, there are two approaches. Some understand that it just means the king was just like sincerely concerned for him. He liked Artax Shasta. He was like his,
drinking.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And he was actually asking like, what's wrong? Like, out of concern. But others understand that know that Artax Shasta meant this, or at least Nehemia was worried he meant it this way, that he was suspicious. Meaning, why are you, I can tell you're not acting around me the way that you normally act around me. And you're not quite as comfortable. Right. So and Artax Shasta was suspicious, or at least Nehemia is worried that Artax is suspicious, that he's got some scheme going on. And I'm just saying that, and remember, he's like the last line of defense, so, if you're a cupbearer, if someone turns your cupbearer against you, that's how you are going to sneak in some poison. So, because the pasuk concludes, "Va'ira harbe ma'od," and I was really frightened. So that it's not. Nehemia is obviously worried about something. If it was just Artax Shasta is just asking like a nice friend, what's going on? Why is Nehemia so worried? But so Nehemia is very worried. Va'omar lamelech. So I said to the king, first thing out of his mouth is, Hamelech la'olam yachya. The king shall live forever. Meaning, yeah, exactly. However, he says, and now he brings it up, it seems, for the first time, Madua lo yaru panai, but why should I not, or how could I not, be sad, have a fallen face? Asher ha'ir beit kivrot avotai chareva, the city, it's an interesting way how he formulates it, the city of that holds the graves of my fathers is destroyed. Usha'areha uklu ba'esh, and its gates have been burnt by fire.
Devoured.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Is this the first time Nehemia has come for the kings in the last 4 months?
No, I don't think. No, I think I assume not. So why? So he hasn't said, he didn't want to bring it up yet. Right. And why is it that now suddenly? Is it only now his face looks different, or only now Artax Shasta notices it? I'm not sure. I don't know.
Nisan. Right, Pesach's coming. He's thinking about it more.
Yeah. I hear. Interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe Nehemia has made a decision that he's going to approach the king and talk about this, but he's like.
Or maybe he's struggling about it. Meaning he's it's very interesting. But maybe maybe Nisan has something to do with it. For some reason, either Nisan is getting more depressed, or Nisan he realizes Nisan for some reason I need to do something. Right. But he's not sure how to do it, and it's like going on inside of him, and it shows on his face. That's very interesting. I like that a lot.
In Nisan, did the Jews in Bavel or Paras did they make Aliyah Regel to Yerushalayim to bring Korban Pesach now that there was a base on Mikdash?
Maybe a few did, but I assume not really.
I see.
I assume at least, I don't know. I mean, we do see people are traveling back and forth because that's how Nehemiah begins, that a group from Israel came to Shushan. So I guess some did, but again, just from the general, depiction we get, it's just Yerushalayim was not. Doesn't sound like they're hosting huge crowds every Pesach.
And it sounds like it's the derech hotel. It's
a
long trek. So
again, I don't remember in Ezra it said it took them 5 months to walk. Maybe a smaller group would take longer.
Yes.
But
so they didn't.
Right, if you go and come back.
they didn't have the obligation of Aliyah.
Yeah.
But the obligation was still there, as long as
for those living there, yes. I mean, everyone living in Yerushalayim in the area should have been bringing Korban Pesach. I don't know if maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but they should have been.
But I'm saying outside of the land of Israel, you'd still be obligated to.
I think we assume if you're living outside the land of Israel, then.
And the Rosh Hashanah, how were they communicating? Was it
you can, and it's
possibility the Rosh Hashanah, if there was a Sanhedrin, were they sitting and declaring the new month? And so was that communicated all the way to Basel? I mean, could it be?
Yeah, fires.
Yeah,
even the fires could reach that far. Yeah.
Melech Basar Radam, human king,
always
wants to be surrounded by people who cheer him up.
Yeah.
Hashem is the only king who allows people to be around him who are crying out to him. Melech Basar, you have to be around. Cheer me up,
I hear.
And so if he detected even a slight diminution in that, in Nehemia, whose job was to cheer up the king after all he was pouring his wine, that was noticeable.
I hear.
Stuck out.
Okay. Yeah. What else was I going to say? A few other comments in this pasuk. Also, so the phrase Ir Beit Kivrot Avotai. So again, the Mefarshim, some take that literally, meaning it meant maybe his parents or his grandparents or literally were buried there. Again, or generally, meaning my ancestors, And I saw one recent person write that, that it's interesting that the way he describes Yerushalayim like in a very personal way, meaning he's not saying like, oh, the capital city of my people, right? It's right. It's like my family, right? My personal family ancestor city. And again, maybe that might have been because, again, he doesn't want to imply we're trying to make some breakaway province and that's not why I want to go and rebuild it. It's just like, it's disgraceful that, the city where my parents and grandparents are buried is, like in ruins. Vayomer li hamelech. So again, what did Nehemiah respond? Nehemiah said, "What do you want from me? How can I not be upset? Yerushalayim, the city of my ancestors, is in ruins." Vayomer li hamelech. So the king says to me, "Al mazeh ata mevakesh." So he, I guess he realizes Nehemiah wants to. So what do you want? So what is the pasuk in Megillah Esther?
Das mazeh v'al mazeh.
Is that something like what is the pasuk on mevakesh?
What's it?
So it's right. So Amazah Tam Vakesh. So so he's saying, so at that moment, meaning his mind, he whispers, or thinks a prayer to God. And I say to the king, Im al hamelach tov. Again, I think there's exactly. Yeah. Right. So if he'll be good to the king. And if your servant, if I will be good before you, Asher tishlacheni el Yehuda, please send me to Yehuda, El Ir Kivrot Avotai, to again the city of where my ancestors are buried, Ev Nena, and I will build it. Vayomer li Hamelech, and so the king says to me, the Hashegel Yoshevet Etzlo, and the queen was sitting next to him. That's a bit of a mystery why this mentions this at all. So if you have any interest,
or why mentions it now?
Exactly. Yeah.
What's that
the camera like pans right.
Okay, very good. Shegel. So I saw, apparently it really is also a Persian word for queen. It means like the highest queen.
Is it related to there was a song when Shulgia in Snow White?
That's not.
Shulgia in Kol HaGamadim.
I don't know. What is
Hebrew? Like showing Hebrew?
Chazal, so Chazal say though, Chazal read it as like a very, in a very negative way, like more of like a concubine. Yeah.
In one of the Tofichos, I forget, there's a word that we don't.
It's that same word, yeah, which basically is like sexual promiscuity.
Right.
Tishagelna. It's the same shoresh. So
Right.
Chazal read it that way. Apparently in the Persian it doesn't mean that necessarily, but that's how Chazal read it. So she's sitting next to him, and he says, "Ad mataya mahalachecha umatay tashuv." She says, "Okay, how long do you want?" Vayita lifnei hamelech vayishlacheni. And so it was good for the king. He agreed, and he sent me va'etna lozman, and I gave him a time. He doesn't tell you right down how much, but I said, "Okay, give me 2 years or whatever it is." I mean, just with the journey, he needs a certain amount of time. Give me 2 years, and the king says, "Fine, go." Let's just continue. We'll come back to our shegel. Va'omar lamelech, and so I said to the king, "Im al hamelech tov," and if it also be good for the king, igrot yitnu li, again, give me these letters. Al pachavot evar nar, that I can give to the governors of that area. Asher yaviruni ad asher avo el Yehuda, that I can pass through and not pay any taxes, no one harm me until I get all the way to Yehuda. Ve'igeret el Asaf, and you should also send a letter to Asaf. Now Asaf is a Jewish name, so it sounds like he's also a Jew. Yeah. Yes, I'm not sure saying that, but yeah, correct. Ve'igeret el Asaf, and also write a letter to Asaf. Shomer hapardes asher lamelech, who is the official who oversees the orchards of the king. So again, it's another Jewish person with some high position. Asher yitain li eitzim likrot et sharei habira asher labayit ulechomat ha'ir v'labayit asher avoy lav, that he should provide for me really good wood to cut down and to build for me the gates of some sort of tower. They translate it a little differently, or some sort of
he's bringing this from Persia to
Persia or somewhere along the way. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like it. Yeah, some sort of castles is some sort of meaning apparently in Yerushalayim some sort of like David's citadel, something like that, or there was something like that. And for the walls of the city, and for the Beis Hamikdash itself, or maybe the offices of the Beis Hamikdash, that I'm going there. And the king gave it to me as Hashem's hand was good upon me. That's the phrase that we found in Ezra as well. Vavo el pachavot evar nar, and I went and I could go by the governors, the officers, v'edna lahem et igrot hamelech, and I give them the letters of the king. Vayishlachni mi hamelech sarei chayil uparashim, and the king even provided for me an armed escort, soldiers and horsemen. Exactly. So right. So that was the one thing Ezra didn't get. So if you recall, each wave seems to be right. The king is always giving more and more, and part of that's to give you sort of a sense, like as the book is progressing, where slowly things are getting better. So I think the first, Korah said you can build, and he also provided some material. And then I think there was another letter of Daryavish, maybe that I forget. It was even better that maybe he commanded. So it was something that was better. And then the next one, Ezra, was better because Ezra also was given political power, like you said. He said, I'm also appointing you as like the governor. And now Nehemia is getting, also the soldiers of the king. So that I think symbolically sort of might also stand in that things are getting better. Okay, we're going to hold off on the last topic till next time, actually. But yeah, any
the fact that they use language from Megillah Esther, it can't be by accident. I mean, they're trying to teach us something.
Yeah. So many people, I have to think. We can think about it more. There is something to contrast. And again, it's very similar scenes. I mean, it's Esther and Nehemia both going to the king or speaking to the king with like a really critical request. They're both really worried, right? Esther is asking just for their own safety. She doesn't ask. Chazal say actually, she specifically didn't ask for Yerushalayim.
What she really gets is that they be allowed to defend themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Whereas Nehemiah is asking to go to Yerushalayim. Why the queen is there? I don't know. Any thoughts or comments?
So the parallel is Esther a little bit. Esther's the one who convinces that she's sort of the position. And Mordechai is the one prompting all this, and she's sort of the one who actually convinces the king that this is what you should do. So
I saw some people
quoting Esther.
I hear
the same way. It could be along those lines.
I hear. Yeah. So I just so I saw some people say that we don't really know what, but apparently it was some hint that the queen also was sort of an encouraging voice in the king's ear. Yeah, you should let him do it.
Or would the king have been more likely just to let him go, and the queen's saying, for how long are you going? For how long? You better be coming back.
It seems also to suggest, further along the same track, that Nehemia clearly understood the intricacies of court politics.
Mm-hmm.
And he understood that the king doesn't make the decision, but the queen makes the decision. And so he got them, he knew how to orchestrate it, that he made the decision, but she was there basically having made the decision, having said, yeah, do this.
Maybe this is why it took 4 months.
Excuse me?
Maybe this is why it took 4 months, that he was waiting for
the right
people to be in the room.
Exactly. Because if he hadn't set it up and she didn't agree, he wouldn't have said it. And certainly wouldn't have provided an armed guard.
Also, it gives the king a chance to show off a little in front of the queen. Show how magnanimous he is, And,
yes, I am the king.
All right. Okay. Good evening, everyone. So I was going to say we'll pick up next week, but are we? Next week would be 8:30, starting at 8:30. Is that getting too late?
I'll be in a different time zone.
Well, yeah, I'm happy to. Will people make it at 8:30, or it's?
Yeah, I can make it definitely next week.
Fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so next week at 8:30.